So let's start with one of the most common questions. K1 visa, which is for fiancés, or visa for spouses. These are the main two options that you're going to have to legally move in with your spouse into the United States. The spouse visa is if you already have been married. If you have been married, whether it is inside the US or in your home country, then you have to get this visa. There is some advantages and disadvantages, but if you're already married, basically you have no choice, so it doesn't really matter. If you are not married yet, this is when you get to choose, because you could either get married outside of the United States and start your process as a spouse, or you could choose not to get married just yet, get your fiancé visa, and then get married in the United States once you enter with this K1 visa. Most people prefer to go with the K1 for the simple visa that the wait times have seemed to be a little bit shorter than the spouse one in the last few years. So as we know, this could change at any given time because the government prioritizes different visas at different times. But so far in the last few years, this is what we've seen, that the processing time for the K1 is much faster. On the other hand, the prices are a little bit lower on the K1 versus the spouse visa. And those are the main two reasons why I personally chose to go with K1. Now I'm going to talk about my personal experience here. I was very lucky to have a tourist visa to enter the United States. I basically had it since I was a little girl, which allowed me to come in and out of the United States as a tourist throughout all my life. And I also had a J1 visa, which allowed me to come in when I was 18, 19 years old for 2 years to work and study at the same time. This was over 15 years ago though. So I actually never thought that I will get married to an American citizen, and it was never my goal to move into the US through marriage, but I happened to fall in love with an American, so this is what I had to do to ensure that we'll be able to live together and form a family without having to travel back and forth the whole time. And because I had the travel visa, we were able to travel back and forth, so we rarely stopped seeing each other for more than a month. Sometimes he will come visit me in Mexico and stay for 1.5 months, which was allowed just with his American passport, and then I will come visit him and also stay for 1.5 months at a time. So we never had to go through the hardship of not seeing each other for a really long time. Now again, I know we are very fortunate to have had it that way, and I know it's not the case for everybody, maybe because your country is farther and airplane tickets are expensive, or maybe because you don't have a tourist visa or your American partner doesn't have a passport to be able to travel to your home country. So if that's the case, hang in there. Trust me, this process is easier than it looks. It will eventually pass and you'll be able to be together. Now that being said, let's dive into the visa processing. Today I'm going to tell you about my K1 visa process and some of the biggest lessons I learned. I hope this is useful to you starting out the process. My name is Lerma-Lo. Welcome to Let's Do It Anyway. I'm going to start with a little bit of background and or love story just because I'm a hopeless romantic. So my husband, it feels weird to say it still, my husband and I met in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So this was kind of funny because it was the beginning of pandemic. I am from a northern state in Mexico, Chihuahua, and I had a job as a radio host, but my station unfortunately had to close, and then I was out of a job when pandemic hit. Then I got a job offer in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, which is a beach town for those of you who are not familiar with Mexican beaches. And I moved there to have a new radio show with a different company, while Mr. Lo was working remotely and decided to spend some months in Puerto Vallarta as well. We met, as he likes to say, the traditional way on Tinder. We started talking and decided to have our first date about 5 or 6 days after we matched. And even though I always thought it was lies when people said, when you know, the first moment I saw him, I felt that I was going to be marrying him later. And so we started dating, and just 3 or 4 months after our first date, he got a great job offer that if he took, he will have to spend way less time in Mexico and move permanently back to the United States. He actually asked me to move with him into the US, but in the one hand, I did not want to move into the country illegally, and in the other hand, I will have to quit my job, leave my house, leave my pets and everything for a guy I had met less than 6 months ago. So I said if he was serious about their relationship, I will be really happy to move with him to a different country as long as we were engaged. Yeah, looking back, that was definitely a ballsy move, and to be honest, at the time, I thought he was just gonna ghost me and never talk to me again, but I thought it was worth the risk, and to my immense surprise, a couple weeks later, he came to talk to me, and he said he had been looking at rings, but they all looked the same to him, so he offered me his credit card and asked me to choose for myself and just order one. I obviously said no and got him in contact with one of my favorite jewelers in Mexico who happens to speak English and help him through the process of choosing the perfect engagement ring. So we got engaged and we started to do some research on what we needed to do for me to legally move in with him into the United States as his wife or his fiance. Now, let me start by saying I am not a lawyer and I am not an immigrant expert. I am just a regular girl who fell in love and started to do a lot of research, who tried to make this transition as fast and cheap as possible. So this is why I wanted to share everything I learned and everything I went through for other people, girls and boys like me, who are trying to move into the United States because they fell in love and want to get married. Once we got engaged, he moved to Florida, and after a month, once he got an apartment set up and everything, I came over to visit him, I think for about a month or a month and a half, at which time we started putting together the package we needed to send to USCIS to start the visa process. I got this binder, which I've been carrying around for over 2 years now with all the paperwork we needed. I recommend you do the same thing. Having just something as simple as this really helped me keep all my paperwork organized. I'm gonna brag a little bit and say we just received our marriage certificate this week. So I have this little sticker here that says Married in Vegas, which we got at the courthouse when we got married last month. So I have a lot of paperwork that, of course, you're not gonna have at this time. But let's start at the beginning. As you can see, this is the original application we mailed back then. I kept an exact copy so that I could go back and look at it or mail it again in case it got lost or anything. I recommend you always keep a copy of everything you mail to them or they mail to you. As you can see, this is quite a big package because I wanted to make sure I included everything they asked for and a little more, just so that our process could move as fast as possible. Now again, I am not a lawyer or an immigrant expert. I had just started my research to put the package together, so it took me about 2 to 3 months to finish putting it together because I had to navigate different websites and get different passwords and things. So even though I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of how to assemble the package, I'm going to give you a few tips that will have been really useful to me back then to have before starting the process so that I could move way faster. So tip number 1 is patience. I know you don't want to hear it and all you want is for me to give you tricks to make the process faster. Right now, it's about 16 months, give or take, from the moment you mail your paperwork to you getting your visa approved. Times have been changing through the years. Like I said, sometimes the government prioritizes different visa types, but more or less it stays about the same. That being said, again, it could change at any given time. You can always check the timing on the official website the government has for this purpose. But definitely patience is one of the things you need to make sure you have before you even start this process. Like I said, this is going to take over a year, and most of the time you don't even know where your paperwork is at. You don't get any updates, you can't check anything, and all you can do is just every day go to a website and refresh the page hoping something has changed. So it is very nerve-wracking, and if you are not prepared to be able to deal with the waiting and the stress, this is really going to affect your mental health and your overall spirits. Now, other than patience, it's really important that you allow yourself to give grace both to your partner and to yourself. You are both going to be very stressed. This process is like a full-time job on top of the jobs you probably already have and the regular stress you already have in life. You're going to miss each other a lot. Even if, like us, you're able to travel often to see each other, chances are you're not going to be together the whole time. And life gets on the way. Sometimes maybe your partner is gonna have a bad day, or they're gonna get sick, or they're gonna lose their phone, and they're not gonna be able to get back to your text in 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. This has happened to us several times. Sometimes you're just not gonna be in a good mood, and then a lot of things can get misinterpreted over text or video call or phone call. So just make sure you remember at all times that you both want this and that you are a team working towards being together and forming a marriage and a new family. And don't pay attention to the everyday problems, the everyday stress, and especially technology failures or things like a text not being responded or the wrong emoji being misinterpreted. All things like that are gonna pass. It's just a year and a half, and you'll be together forever. You need to make it through. So give your partner grace, and always think that if something looks bad, it's probably just that they're tired or you're tired or whatever. Just remember they love you, and also give yourself grace. If one day you just need to be sad and cry or be upset, or you just need a break, allow yourself to feel those feelings, because this is a very unique and hard experience you're gonna be going through, and most likely people around you are not going to understand it. So I recommend joining a group on Facebook where other people are also processing this kind of visa, where you can make friends that truly understand what you're going through. The next tip is organization. Before you start doing anything visa related, I need you to be very, very organized. You need to create folders on your computer, on your drive, and folders physically. If possible, try to get a printer so you can keep copies of everything in case you lose your files, your computer breaks, or anything like that. So being an organization freak like me might seem a little extra, but trust me, at the end of the day, you are going to be very, very grateful that you know where to find everything. There's going to be a bunch of different websites where you're going to need to create different usernames with different passwords. You're going to get about 3 or 4 different numbers from the government, and sometimes you're going to need one of the numbers, sometimes you're going to need the other one, and you need to keep everything on track. Every email they send you, every letter they send you, you're going to need to physically bring to your interview later. And remember, this is not something you're going to collect through a 1 week or 2 weeks or 1 month. This is going to be over a year and a half. And like I already said many times, life will get on the way. You're not going to be able to just remember at all times where all this information is. So do yourself a favor and create all these systems to make sure you know exactly where to find everything when you need it. The next piece of advice is to document everything. Maybe you're not big on photos or big on videos, but the main thing the agents that review your case are going to look for is for evidence that your relationship is real. So whenever you and your partner are together, make sure you are constantly taking photos. If you meet each other's family, if you meet each other's friends, make sure you make photos, make sure you make videos of you with these people in your life. If you ever send each other presents or letters or cards, make sure you keep all of those as well. When you travel to see each other, save the boarding passes. If you're together and you go to a movie, seriously, save the movie tickets. All of these things are physical proof that you two have a relationship and have spent time together. Now, I want to share what I did, which obviously worked out for me. So what happens sometimes is that if you send your package and then the agent that goes through it feels like there's not enough evidence to prove that your relationship is real, there's one of two things that can happen. The first thing is that you might just get denied altogether and will have to either appeal or apply again. The other thing that will happen is that they will just send you an email requesting more evidence. If this happens, it's just like going to square one and having to wait another 4, 5, even 6 months before they even go through the new evidence you sent. So if you ask me, I'd rather send a little bit more than they need just to make sure we're like double bagging it so that they won't be able to deny because of that reason. What I did is that I provided date and location where we met, and then multiple photos of that time. So for example, this shows when we first met, September to December 2021. In Mexico, it shows a bunch of photos of us together and with our friends, as well as Jonathan's boarding pass to entering Mexico. When I first came to visit him, this was February 2022. It was in Georgia. Here are my boarding passes and a bunch of photos we took in Georgia as well. And it goes on like that until the time where we submitted our paperwork. As you may be able to see here, I try whenever possible to make sure that the time and location recorded on the metadata of each image shows, just to further prove that this is real. Now, let me show you something else I decided to do. So everybody knows that now whenever you travel to a different country, the agents decided whether or not to let you in will probably check your social media for suspicious activity or anything like that. So I just wanted to make the job of the agent going through my application a little bit easier, and I added QR codes to different highlights on my Instagram showing stages of our relationship. The first one shows us together when we were dating from 2021 to 2022, some in Puerto Vallarta, some of our engagement, a little bit more of the engagement, what we did in Florida, and more photos of all together. This last QR code, I started the highlight, but by the time I mailed the package, it was empty. So while the package was waiting to be reviewed, I kept on adding photos and videos of us together. Therefore, most likely when the agent went through it, he could see stories from maybe that week or even that day that I had just posted. I highly suggest you do this because anyways, most likely they're still gonna go through your social media. So if you do something like this, it just looks very honest. And again, it makes the job of the person going through your file a lot easier, which will always be appreciated. Like I said, this is a lot of work and it can take a huge toll on your mental health. So I highly recommend, if it's possible for you, to try and get a therapist for yourself, or maybe even for you two as a couple, just so you can unload and vent about this process, because again, people around you are not going to understand what you're going through, and the one person who understands your partner is most likely not going to be by your side physically the whole time. This can take a huge toll on your overall health, and you might even start to get sick or feel a little weak, tired, things like that while you're going through the process. So it's very important that you prioritize your overall health. So I recommend you go see your doctor as well and try to get some vitamins and supplements that might help you stay on top of your health game. Also, if you and your partner are constantly traveling from one country to another to see each other, as you know, food will vary and bacteria in the air will vary, and you might be susceptible to get sick a lot more. And I'm telling you this because this is exactly what happened to us. In between the jet lag and sometimes eating in Mexico, sometimes eating in the US, going from hot weather to cold weather and traveling in planes all the time, we both started to get sick really often. If we didn't have a headache, we had a stomachache, or maybe we had a cold or the flu, either it be the Mexican flu or the American flu, until we discovered a supplement that really made a difference for us. So I'm not a doctor. I recommend you go see your doctor to find what best works for you, but I want to share this product that really made a difference for us. Immunocal is an all-natural protein with the highest biological value of any edible protein. It is clinically proven to raise glutathione levels. Glutathione helps your immune system be super strong, and it's a key detoxification enzyme that provides cellular energy and help your body master every antioxidant. It is the only patent glutathione precursor of its kind. It also has bonded cysteine technology, which is a clinically proven all-in-one solution designed to raise your body's production of glutathione. It's not only supported by a lot of evidence, but also boosts the highest biological value among all edible proteins, producing more and better antibodies so you don't have to worry about traveling back and forth and being exposed to different environments, as it also helps neutralize harmful free radicals, reducing cell damage and signs of aging. Another effect that I was very pleasantly surprised by is that it boosts your energy level. So while before I used to be tired all the time and need a nap midday or just feel like I was running out of energy constantly, once I started taking Immunocal, I could really last all day with higher energy levels. It's also proven to be involved in brain energy production, so not only was I not tired, but I literally felt like my brain was working better. I think it's worth a try. If you want to give it a go, I will leave a link in the description so you can order it to anywhere in the world. I hope hearing our story and these tips will help you start getting ready to begin the process that will allow you to live happily ever after in the US with your new spouse. I want to do another video on K1 visa, but I would like to know what is it that you're wondering about it. So please leave all the questions you may have in the comments down below so that I can do a whole video answering these questions for you. And if there's anything else I can personally help you with, find me on any of my social media channels and shoot me a DM so I can help you one-on-one. My name is Lerma-Lo. See you next time.